Hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. Basketball Rewind. We are talking about drafts. It is draft talk. And guess what? I'm a super excited person because I get to talk about someone who unfortunately is out of the tournament. But we have the president of the fan club here, and that would be Derik Queen. Like, comment, and subscribe, people, on your way in. Coach, take it away. Tell
All
me
hail
about
the
Derik Queen's metrics because, of
oh,
course, we won't truly know the metrics until the combine. But tell me about the metrics, Coach.
all hail the queen.
Yeah.
All hail the Queen, Queen Derik. Um, so, Mr. Queen, Derik Queen, our guy Tyler, he was raving about him a little while ago before we had him on the show. So I go on, I take a look at him. And the kid, I'm looking at him, 6'9", 6'10", but he's a little thicker than what you might see from athletes who are big time prospects today. But you're looking at a guy 6'9", 6'10", 250 pounds, really good first step, quicker than he looks. He can score under the hoops, got great footwork, good rebounder. The shot is starting to come along a little bit. We know he's from Baltimore. That's why it makes sense for him to play at Maryland, I guess. Number 8 on the ESPN 100 high school prospects. But Queen is a little bit of an older prospect because at the draft, he is 20. Sorry, he's 20 right now. My apologies. So he'll be 21 in December of next year. So he's a little bit older than like Malawach or Newell, I believe. But you're looking at a guy who can, I think, offensively, he's very gifted. He's probably the best offensive center coming out of this draft, I would say. If I put him between Malawach and Newell, probably in that top 10, 12 range. So I like Queen a lot. I think he'd be good for certain teams. For the Raptors specifically, that I don't know. I would say probably not your top option if you're looking for a big. But this guy, he passes out of the post well. The shot's starting to improve. We know that he's got great footwork underneath, and I think he was beyond refresh my memory. Do you know what conference Maryland plays in? Is that the Big
Big,
Ten?
Big Ten now, yeah. These
Big
days
Ten.
you need like a road map, but yeah, it's Big Ten.
Big Ten. Yeah, I think he's Big Ten Freshman of the Year this year, and he's going to probably go in the top 10 in the draft.
He was also Big Ten Rookie of the Year. He was also Big Ten, All Big Ten Tourney of the Year recipient and All Big Ten. So he has he's the full meal deal, and I don't. That's a bad joke. I didn't even do that on purpose. I'm so sorry, Derek.
Hey man, don't let the size fool you. He's quick. He's nimble on his feet.
He does have a wicked first step, by the way.
Yep.
People. I think people. So I think someone compared him to Tractor Trailer at some point,
No.
but his first step is not it. To be honest, if he was more quick with the third step and fourth step, I would say that he could potentially, especially on defense, in another world, he could play the 3. Honestly,
Well, I think Gavoni had a good comparison for him. He liked him to Sengun, which was interesting.
Mm.
Sengun's a guy, he don't play much defense. They're both Sengun, I think, is around 6'9", 6'10".
Yep.
Now, I think if Derik Queen was to be like him at some point in his career, well, then you've done a very good job at drafting this guy if he hits that way.
I agree. Beyond your thoughts on Derek Queen, let's focus on his offense first before we get into any sort of defense.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, he's got a nice touch. He's a in today's world or today's type of game, he's actually quite polished for an offensive player. Like nowadays, you don't see as many prospects coming out as polished offensive players, or at least they have a certain skill set that you could bank on. Like he does have got a nice mid-range game. He's got a nice little step back. He's got working on there.
He gets to the line.
He gets the
quite a
line.
lot.
He has nice counters with his post game. He can do a turnaround. He can do up under. He's got a little hook shot too. He's got a lot of different elements to his game. Obviously, he's not going to jump out the gym or anything like that, but he's got as you said before, a lot of craft to his game, which is a bit of an old school game. I can see the Sengun comparisons. I don't think he's as strong as Sengun is. I think Sengun to me has got that old man type of strength to him a little bit that I think works in his favor to actually play center. I don't know yet if that's really yeah, that's the part I'm trying to figure out with him, right? Like his game is built for a kind of old strong man type of game. I don't know if he's strong enough yet to play that type of game in the NBA. That's my only thing. But he has a lot of skills where if he's playing off of someone else, he could be very potent, I think.
Yeah, and that is a good question. The one thing I'm not sure, just because he had such a high usage role, is can he play off ball? Now, I do think as a secondary creator, he'd be perfect as well, like as a post hub. Um, yeah, incredible passer. I saw him passing from both the post, from like the top of the arc, out to the different corners. He spots guys very quickly, very rapidly, doesn't hesitate. He can pass, and he passes well. I think he's a decent rebounder for his size as well, especially on the defensive end. Solid, I would say, person to box out. Knows how to screen. He's a willing screener. Again, he just offensively he has like the complete arsenal. To be honest, there's nothing really bad that I have to say. I mean, I think obviously his game needs to grow more outside for him to really flourish in the NBA. So you can prove like, hey, I can definitely hit that pick and pop jumper. But for now, I think like it's he's shown enough that like I'm not worried about that being there at the next level. Like it will get there. Yeah, he shot 20% from three, but like he also shot like 52% from the field while like being like the alpha, the omega, and everything on his team at times. So yeah, and I mean, although he traveled, he did hit one heck of a shot with pressure, kind of cutting down to win himself a game in the tournament, and he will have that shine behind him. So yeah,
Yeah. He did shoot, I think, around 40% from three in the tournament. I think he was like 3 of 7.
Yeah.
Don't quote my math on that. It could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the the complete package, but yes.
Yeah.
But I think that the development is showing, like, because someone made the comment the other day during that game, the one that got eliminated. I can't remember who they're playing that day. I think
Florida.
Yeah, the Florida game. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he taking a shot, he hit one, and then he missed one, and then now you're saying like, I don't think that's the type of shot for him. And the guy chimed in and said, well, he's hit 5 of his last 10 or something like that from 3 or something like that. If you go back to the Big Ten tournament, so it's something he's starting to incorporate more and more in his offense as a weapon. So I think what that might be a precursor to is that, who knows, next year he might be, if he's playing the NBA, could you see him as a 33% 3-point shooter next year? I think that's something that's quite plausible as a benchmark.
Yeah. And I always go back to, what have you done against the good teams? Well, he had 27 against Florida in his last game. He had 31 against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. He had 19 against Illinois. He had 29 against Rutgers, and they blew them.
That game's kind of his coming out party.
Yeah. He had 25 against Illinois in the season. There was another big game that he had as well. 26 against Purdue. Purdue just lost this weekend, I think. Mm-hmm. So he's come up in some of these big games for sure. And obviously, as we know, he had the game winner against Colorado State when he hit it off the backboard. I think he's going to be a really good player in the NBA. I think he gets on the right situation, and he's on a team that can really showcase his abilities. I think he's got a good chance to be a good player.
Yeah, so I think if the Raptors are, I'll get to how he fits on the Raptors at the end. That's probably the best for him. But just in terms of overall ranking, I think people sometimes think how this person fits or how they would work versus like a big board. And to me, a big board, how I would put my big board is, it's based on who's the best talent at every single position, regardless of, the team picking that. And that's why mock drafts are usually different than big boards. It's because like a mock draft, you're looking at, okay, team X is here. This is who, not who is the best person on the board, but there's also that combined with, whatever it may be. Like who Philly would pick at like 4th versus who they would pick at, say, 8th is completely different and not just related to the talent, especially with how they're built, for example. Whereas other teams might have a completely different philosophy. In terms of Queen, though, I mean, I don't have much more. I really love the way that he rebounds. I love his fight. I love his passion. I saw, people say that he disappeared on the court. Don't know what they're talking about. If they want to talk about the defensive end, which we will now kind of shift into, I think there's a fair case to be said that he's just their foot speed right now combined with the suggested lack of height is concerning because he is older as a prospect, so he's probably not going to grow relative to other people. You can grow until you're 21, but more than likely he's not going to hit a growth spurt. So, but yeah, I think the defensive end is why I have a little bit of concerns and why I would put him a little bit further back than other people. I know some people say that like offense in today's game is all that matters, and you got to put the ball in the hoop. And to a certain extent, I agree. But defense wins championships. I have yet to see a single team win an NBA championship ever in my lifetime without being top 10 on defense.
Yep.
I think there's maybe one, and even then it's very rare. And usually it's top 10 in both, and usually it's at least top 5 in both categories, to be honest. But usually it's like top 5 and top 10. There's some that have kind of slunk to like maybe 11th. But like, yeah. And in terms of the Sengun comparisons, who I will also compare to another person who he also gets compared to, which is Sabonis. Although I think Sabonis is taller. Although he didn't come. Sabonis didn't come. He's beefier too, but Sabonis didn't come into the league beefy. I've never been a fan of Sabonis at the time I was okay with, but I've never been the fan of that type of archetype as a center. Even Sengun, I heard the comparisons to Kevin McHale and all that, which I think is pump the brakes a little bit, but I could see some of the comparisons. I mean, Kevin McHale was part of the Houston staff behind the scenes, if I'm not mistaken, helping him out with Hakeem. So fair enough. But for me, I do feel like those type of center archetypes run into trouble. Part of it is on the defensive end. But we will see as well in the playoffs. Yeah, Beyond, you're shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
I'm just I'm just shaking my head with that Kevin McHale comp because.
I thought you were saying because of my dislike for centers that are one-way centers.
No, I'm just sitting around because honestly, I don't think there's a player in the league right now. I don't care who it is, including Jokic. I don't think anyone has counters like Kevin McHale. Kevin McHale is one of the best post players I've ever seen. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of times that and I don't mind making comparisons here and there, but I like to say like flashes. That's what I like to say.
Flashes. That's
I don't like saying he reminds like with Malowaj where people say he reminds me. Of ex-player, Hakeem or Joel Embiid, and even Joel Embiid who got compared to Hakeem, and it's like, go watch the tape. I actually watched the tape, and I was like, no, this dude's way more fluid than this dude. Like, I know people like to say that the guys back in the day were all playing against plumbers, but some of those dudes, say plumber or not, some of those plumbers were super athletic.
The post up, the technique of McHale, like you just don't see that nowadays. But going back to your point about the defense, I mean,
I'm alluding to it without actually really I'm dipping my toe.
Look, I'm going to get straight to my concern with him because I think, because this
is the foot speed. It's the foot speed.
Well, the foot speed's one thing, but it's also trying to understand, like, because of the measurements, it also plays into what position can he play and get away with based on the measurements. If he's actually 6'9", now you're asking yourself, you want to play a 6'9" guy that's not that fast. And then does he have enough strength in this case to play guys who are actually legitimate, 270 pounds or 250 pounds at center?
Keeping in mind that he probably has to continue. He dropped 28 pounds already, and he probably has to continue to watch his weight.
To maintain that thing, right? And now, for all the young fans out here in this case here, we don't see this type of player as Coach alluded to earlier.
Sorry, Coach.
No, but I'm not saying any sort of thing. I think it's more of an interesting, because this type of player used to be much more frequent in the NBA, right? God rest his soul. Oliver Miller just passed away. Like there's these type of players did exist, and now now everyone's built like an Adonis nowadays. So
is he kind of like Zebo a bit? I've heard that comparison.
A little bit, because like in this case here, like Randolph wasn't in the best of shape when he started off. In this case, in the
Yes.
early days,
And then he also was like both the power forward and at times the center.
center, right, right. I would say that's actually a much better comp. Actually, of all the comps I heard, actually that one there,
Yeah.
that is a pretty dang good comp in this case here, because Randolph, for a guy his size, had a lot of touch and finesse. Like Randolph could score pretty much anywhere on the court, and he could post you up, you could hit for the mid range. Wasn't really much of a 3-point shooter, so kind of that part queen. But I'm sure if Randolph existed in today's world, he'd probably shoot the three a lot more, and he'll draw fouls like no one's business. And Randolph's a beast, and parts of his career was almost like 2010 at times. So like in some ways Randolph, but I think like Randolph was he could play center at times if you wanted to in a pinch, but I think Randolph was a bit, in my mind, Randolph seemed to be a bit bigger, and
he's more like a finesse big four.
yeah, that's the thing, right? But Randolph had the same problems though, because he could play before, and the thing with Randolph is Randolph played the power forward position when the power forward was still kind of a position where you just pretty much shot jump shots, and that's about it. He wasn't really at the phase where a power forward is today, like where you see a Siakam or a Giannis. That didn't really truly exist in the Randolph years when he was playing his prime. Now he would have trouble in this case, I think, right? So now you're looking at it as like, okay, can this guy stick in front of Siakam? Can this guy stick in front of Giannis? Right? No. Mobile power forwards. Technically, right now, LeBron's playing power forward at this point. Can he stay in front of him? Right? Like, this is what you're thinking yourself while I'm going. I was like, okay. And if not, then can you play center? And can you play against Jokic?
It's not really the bet, but like, he might be, say he's playing center, he might be guarding Cat.
Right, exactly, right. Exactly.
Cat's one of the best driving big men in the league, to be perfectly fair. But so it's not the most fair person to put him on, but like he's
business, right? And that's Scotty's natural position of power forward.
Cat gives everyone the business, right?
Right. So I'm just saying, like that's my thing. Now I'll say this for a positive for him though. He's got quick hands.
Yeah,
his hands are lightning fast. I mean, yes. I see him pick your boy clean as a whistle in this case, that Rutgers game. I was like, damn. I was like, okay. I popped up. I can't believe it.
Amen. Yeah.
He was the best player on the floor that day. With two guys that get picked ahead of him. I was like, damn, okay. And so he
is dogging him. He is dogging him.
Yeah, he has.
And he does compete as much as he can.
He definitely was sending a message that day. There's no two ways about it.
I do want to say also that people need to contextualize things. Because he does so much offensively, I don't think that they're tasking him to do as much defensively. So I think if people are worried about it being like an effort thing for him and that like he doesn't care, like I've heard defensive motor is an issue. That's nonsense. I don't buy that personally, because it's like if you're being tasked, these are the questions that I would have. If I'm like, this is where the difference between someone like us versus someone who's a professional scout who gets to talk to the coach, it gets a little bit more, get to know the guy a little bit more, and gets to see them on, you're going on a scouting road trip and you see how it is. Because there's certain, I'm not watching every single game and talking to the coach and listening to the interviews of the coach and say, okay, this is the strategy. I think it's a little bit much to say that he has no motor on defense.
Yeah, if you look at some of the advanced numbers, though, they're better than Malawach on defense. I'm not talking about like the blocks or anything like that, but how he's impacting on defense for Maryland is something. Now he's playing next to Reese. I'm sure that that's helping his case in doing so, because they're both like, Reese is a center. Sorry, he's not four. Queen is a hybrid. I think he can play because he's thicker. He could play some center, and I think honestly, if he's on a team with a bunch of shooters, and you got him out there setting some screens, that helps them. I'm thinking even a guy. I'm not advocating so much for him to go to the Raptors, but if you had him setting screens for Grady Dick to get open.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's going to be better than Orlando Robinson or Mobo. It's like Pirtle's the best screen setter, and then Queen's probably number 2.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I guess to kind of shift into the more Raptor-C discussion, I personally lean on the caution. I understand that he would help the team. He would have times when he could help the team, but he's also the type of player that, as we're alluding to, because he might be a tweener because of his size, and those challenges, I I wonder if he's the best fit for the Raptors.
I got another picture of this moment coming here.
Yeah,
Let me tell you something. Since this is a good way to integrate this a little bit. So we
it
hear the good
is.
news today that Mr. Darko here get another year of extension. So he's supposed to be here now for 4 years. Now, considering the old .5 offense and how it's run, there's a scenario that could play out that if he got picked by the Raptors,
Oh, we've talked about this. I know what you're
he
going to
will be the focal point of this offense, folks. Buckle up for Queen all day, Queen all night.
To your point, people zoom back to it might have been the Minnesota game or one of the other games earlier in the season, around that time, and we did an out of bounds play to end the game with a Pirtle ISO. Now, take out Pirtle, insert Queen. You could see it happening. It wasn't the first time either.
We've seen so far just in the last week alone, Orlando Robinson having like 24 and 14 or something like that. Okay.
So maybe Jaeger not a Raptor.
Right. Pirtle, same thing.
Yes.
So the offense is predicated on, in this case, attacking and using the center as a weapon. Right? And pick and rolls wherever you want. If you actually have a skilled big that can execute most of that, and you're doing it right now with Pirtle getting 24 and 17 on some nights, why would I think that if he actually got a talented offensive player, Darko wouldn't be beaming from ear to ear? You had like 10 cups of like cappuccino that day, man. It's like, oh boy, ready to go.
Well, if you look at how the Raptors offense is structured, it's structured more to a guy like Queen than it is Malawatch. It's the high post offense in which, and if Tyler is right, and you're saying, man, the passing is awesome, then you probably would be looking more towards Queen. Now, if Malawatch is on the board, take care of your damn defense first, right? Also, if he's on the board, he's 7'2". So I'm going to trust his screening ability over Queen's. So I do think Queen, his ball handling ability, I've watched some games, he was taking guys off the dribble much smaller than just that first step. And his ball handling skills are really good for a big guy.
Yes.
So I think we had Mac on the show. I don't mean to compare, I'm not trying to compare these two right now, but him and Malawatch are the inverse of each other. They are.
Yeah. And what was interesting when you looked into Newell, we'll get into Newell on a different episode. But when you looked into Newell and you were surprised that like Queen had better defensive advanced metrics than Newell, but Newell was a better offensive player in terms of the metrics, and that was interesting.
Right.
I think again, the Sengun type of center is not my type of center. I don't know. The other thing is that those type of centers, when they're tasked with so much, they usually don't end up being a 3-point shooting center. So it's not like Sengun is not like, I mean, let me just look up his stats right now. But like, I don't think Alperen Sengun is like the best. Let's see, Alperen. I don't think he's like the best shooting center, in general. I just don't think so. Yeah, 23%. So I was worried I'd be wrong there. But lo and behold, also he's got to improve on his free throws. That 70% is not sufficient enough. But yeah, this is my point where the guy is like built up. Now, sorry, I don't know how you feel about Alperen Sengun. You know how I feel. I don't feel I know that they have orientated their offense towards him. I'm not necessarily against that. But and ironically, as much as people think, we actually see more big men getting back into the fold in terms of having team construction around them. But I lean against that type of center. That's me.
I always like Sengun, I think, but I think Sengun Houston's gonna have a big issue moving on, and this is the reason why I understood the pickup of Fred, but I also had the concerns of Fred, because what you're trying to say when you pick up Fred is, to your point, you're putting more emphasis on kind of pushing Sengun as the focal point of the offense.
Yes.
I think what they discovered as he got hurt, Fred got hurt, and they put the ball in Jalen Green's hands more, the team started taking off, because really, when it's all said and done, everyone can say what they want to say. Jalen Green's the most talented player, period.
To be fair, though, they went on like what was it, like a huge losing streak, and then Fred came back and they went on a winning streak as well. So.
Right, but I
yeah,
think what
I know
I'm
what you're
saying is
saying.
when they held the fort and they actually started kind of really taking off during the middle of the season is when Sengun was actually either I think he was hurt a little bit. At times he's worked his way back in, and Fred was in and out of the lineup, and they put the ball in Green's hands because when it's all said and done, I don't trust. Here's my thing: I love Sengun overall. He's a fun player to play, but when it comes to like the money time, I'm always looking at how many guys can stay in the court when it comes to a major playoff game.
Yeah,
because you're going to need as many two-way guys you can have as possible. Who could be on the floor as we go into playoffs? And there's some guys that are first-round guys. There's some guys that are second-round guys. There's some guys that are conference finals guys. And there's some guys that are finals guys. We see it every year. You'll see teams that get to the finals, they start off with a 9-man rotation. And by the time you get to the finals, it's literally 7 guys at best.
Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, would one of these guys?
We've been having this discussion,
right.
and it's like, do I see Queen getting played off the floor? Yes.
Yes,
that's what I'm trying to get at.
I think it's going to be revelatory to see what happens with Houston in the playoffs because I think the same scenario could play out with Sengun.
Yeah, and that's also why they got Steven Adams in part. So yeah. Part and parcel. Okay. Any final thoughts, President El Presidente, before we get out of here on Derik Queen?
I get Queen 9th on my big board.
Okay.
Not my mock draft, but it's just my big board.
Got
I get just ahead of Ace and Newell, just behind Trey Johnson.
Yo, Coach, you gonna put up the big board here? Are you gonna unveil the big board
will
at some point? Okay.
I got my top 10. You go to my Twitter; it's on there.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Do you have a spreadsheet, Coach?
I do not have a spread. I don't have the Darko spreadsheet.
Okay. Okay. Well, with that being said,
that will come in May when the combine stuffs.
Right, and you know who's positioned
and
where.
Then you know.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, comment, and subscribe, people. I think that is more than enough on Derik Queen for today. Yeah, stay tuned to Basketball Rewind for Draft Talk. We are going to be cranking these out, and so yeah, take care, people. He's out of the tournament. We will definitely be covering the draft lottery and all that. Oh, before I get out of here, it's time for the draft simulator.
What are we, 7th best odds?
7th best odds. We had the least likely thing happen, and we stayed at 7. Which is interesting, because that usually we either move up or down. Now, I'm just going to tell you who won the first 4 picks. So, Brooklyn, number 1. New Orleans, number 2. Number 3, 76ers. Number 4, Utah Jazz. That's an interesting thing. I think Brooklyn would be happy. New Orleans, probably Harper. Then it gets interesting with the Philly. Because at 3, do they take Malawach because of the situation, or do they take Ace Bailey?
Or even VJ.
Or VJ.
I think Bailey or Malawach is probably better for them.
I think it's probably. I think they lean towards Malawach to get off that for a while because they've been picking up a lot of centers over the past few years. And then Utah gets whoever's left over, maybe VJ or something like that. We'll see.
Poor VJ.
Anyways, that's all, folks. Take care and peace.